Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier and this is Ship Updates. Now, before we get into the Hurricane real quick, there was some images that came up on Twitter. Not too detailed, but Sandy Gardner gave us these images of the Cutlass Black in the middle of its rework by Josh Coons. So, once again, cool to see the ship evolving and moving forward. And now, of course, this is the black. The blue and the red, I believe, are scheduled for 3-2. But depending on how quickly things go, who knows? Maybe we'll see them sooner. So definitely cool to kind of see, the Cutlass moving forward. It's going to be interesting to see how that ship turns out. But of course, the big news was the release, finding out that the next concept ship was going to be the Anvil Hurricane. Now, during today's happy hour, Ben Lesnick said, okay, it's the next ship, but that's all I'm going to say about it. But thanks to Evil Gamer, who went back to when the last time we saw this ship mentioned, which was back during the voting campaign for the next series of concept ships. If you remember, it would have been about end of October, beginning of November 2014, and this is the write-up from, those posts. And here it is. Some ships avoid dangerous encounters with speed, some with stealth, and others with maneuverability. The Anvil Hurricane's philosophy is that it should be able to blast anything that gets in its way out of the sky. The Hurricane won't win any races, and its electronic signature won't let you sneak behind enemy lines, but it features a wide array of fully customizable small-bore weapons hardpoints, plus the ability to customize weapons or weapon types in several ways. The Hurricanes are often used by militia squadrons and private organizations seeking to add a heavy to their lineup. So I'm going to kind of go out on a limb here and assume that this is either going to be a heavy fighter or a gunship. Now, of course, there is also the F8 Lightning, which is, the heavy fighter, which may or may not be player available. In the past, we've heard that it might be linked to an achievement in Squadron 42, though details are very scarce on that. But I'm kind of thinking it's probably going to end up being something more gunship-sized. Just by the description alone, I'm kind of thinking like an Anvil version of the Redeemer or something, kind of Redeemer-esque, but more concentrating on fighters or being a fighter than working towards, kind of being able to land troops and carry a little bit of cargo. Probably something more military, can't really say military focused, but if you know what I mean, probably more of a heavy fighter along the lines of the Vanguard, but it sounds like it's going to be a lot more heavily armed. Something that's going to be a bit more brutal, a bit of a blunt instrument. And so that was kind of cool to get those details, and once again, thanks to Evil Gamer for posting that description on the forums. But as to when we're going to see the ship, apparently there's concept art floating around within CIG, but nothing final yet, so who knows, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, but of course we should find out the price 1 week before the sale begins, so you'll have at least 1 week's notice, and since it's the end of the week, we know it's not going to be next week, so who knows. You still got some times if you want to set some money aside for this ship. If this sounds like something that you're going to be interested in. But remember, this is the old description. Things change. So it may not still be this ship. It may end up being something else. Now, beyond that, of course, on the happy hour, we found out that, of course, this ship, the Aurora, is going through its final paces of its, kind of refactoring. They're kind of doing the gray boxing now. We saw some of those images, but they were kind of shrunk down on the screen. So hopefully we'll see more of it soon. But then again, it is, a starter ship, so probably not going to be a lot of interest towards that. It'll be nice to have, obviously, and there are some issues with the Aurora, and hopefully those will be fixed. But moving on to bigger and better things, they were also talking about the Mustang a little bit, and apparently when they made the Mustangs, there was 2 teams working on it. Two of the ships were handled by one team, the other 2 by the other, and the ships weren't really built to the current level of ships or the current methodology that they use to build ships, the current workflow. So it's possible that when the Mustangs do get a refactor, and they will at some point in the future, it may be a ground up rebuild of the ships, which is not to say that they're going to change in any drastic ways, but there's going to be a lot that they have to do to bring them up to the current standard, and we've seen that before with other ships. Now, the next bit of news was also on Happy Hour, but it's going to be fairly speculative in nature. So what I want to do is I kind of want to take you guys back in time, back to October, to CitizenCon, and just watch a little bit of Chris Roberts' presentation again.
You may or may not see here in a bit. Okay, so, and I want to give you a bit of roadmap after 3.0, so you know what we're doing. I guess there's a lot of miners here, or refiners. So 3.1, and just also, by the way, in case you haven't noticed it, I know last year we said, well, we're going to do a release. We're going to try to do a release every month. After going through this year, we've sort of realized that that's a very hard cadence to do, because by the time you get new content in and you start testing it and get feedback, it's almost impossible to get a significant amount of content to test and do the feedback. So I would say that our cadence on releases, which is what you've seen in the last few releases, is probably going to be something like 2 to 3 months between releases. So just to give expectations, because I don't want to go through 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, and 3.4, and everyone goes, okay, we're going to get that in 4 months. Because again, we'll get shot by everyone on the development side. But anyway, so 3.1 is going to have mining, we're going to have refining and processing, we're going to have quantum interdiction, which means you'll be able to wait and pull people out of quantum travel, whether it's AI or you're doing it yourself, refueling, escort. We're going to add additional locations to Stanton, and we're going to have the new Drake ships. Well, we already have the red and blue, but in the new way we do ships. The Miss Cull Sea for trading, the Prospector for mining, and the Origin 85X, which was this kind of cool cruiser that was with the 890 jump. And if you already have an 890 jump, of course you will get that already. The next one up would be 3.2 with repair and salvage. So we'll be able to salvage and repair. So dive a bit deeper in mercenary, because we have some mercenary stuff that will be in 3.0, and we'll be sort of fleshing all these out. Again, adding more locations in Stanton and fleshing it out further. Finishing out the RSI ships in the new way, Terrapin, and then the variants of the Vanguard and the Reclaimer, which is a beautiful ship, and I know it's one of Nate's favorite ships, so if you know Nathan Disley likes the ship, it's going to be awesome.
Now, during Happy Hour, we found out that there are 2 large ships that are being worked on right now in the UK. But during Happy Hour, we also found out that right now they're still doing some interior concept work on the Banu Merchantman. So it kind of sounds like the Banu Merchantman isn't one of those ships that's going in right now. They're working on it, but they're still doing concept work. And the way they were talking about it on Happy Hour, it sounded more like they were saying, like, this is current, like these ships are underway right now. And so looking at that presentation, there's a couple of standouts that I kind of want to talk about, because once again, I'm speculating here because I don't know for sure, and no one's told me anything, or I haven't gotten any little secret emails or anything like that, but this is kind of based on my own, theory crafting, so take it obviously with a grain or a pound of salt. But in 3.1, we're supposed to get mining ships, or one mining ship, the Prospector, but we're also supposed to be getting the Hull C, right? And then in 3.2, we're supposed to be getting the Reclaimer. Now, the Prospector is a fairly small ship. It's not a very big ship. It's not, there's certain similarities with the Freelancer, obviously, and, well, with the whole MISC line and in the way the cockpit is designed. But it doesn't really look like there's too many interchangeable components, except for maybe part of the interior and the way they've rebuilt the interior in the latest versions of the Freelancer. Now, the other ship that's supposed to be part of 3-1 is, of course, this ship here, the Hull C. So it kind of seems, from my point of view, that the Hull C and the Prospector are these two ships that they're talking about in terms of what the UK is working on right now. Of course, getting these ships ready for 3-1. Now, there is one possible alternate, but I have to admit that even though I would like for it to be the ship, I really feel that it's a long shot. And if I were to throw down money at this point, I would say probably it's going to be the Prospector and the Hull C. But there is one other possibility. Now, in 3-2, we're supposed to be getting salvage. And along with salvage, because there was never a small salvage ship that was ever released, at one point it looked like it was going to be the Terrapin, but the Terrapin ended up being something different. So that leaves only one salvage ship in the game, and it's quite a behemoth. I'm talking, of course, about the Reclaimer. Now, the reason why I bring this up as a possible alternate is when they were talking about the ships, they said 2 large ships. Now, obviously, I mean, you could immediately say, well, it's the Idris and the Javelin, except the Idris and the Javelin, we've already seen them. They've already talked about them, so they wouldn't be kind of keeping that a secret from us because, you know, I mean, we've been immersed in these ships and we've seen screenshots and video of them, you know, so many times. So it's not really a shocker. You know, it's not really something that they would say, oh, we can't tell them about these ships now, you know, so. Because they were talking about a large ship, and, you know, given that we've seen the timeline in producing the Caterpillar, which, I mean, if you remember, we saw the beginning of the interior block out in September 2015, and then the ship was done in, you know, right before Christmas in 2016. The Reclaimer is an infinitely larger ship. Well, not infinitely, but it's much larger than the Caterpillar is. Much more complex. It's got the articulated arms that the main thrusters are on and the rear thrusters. It's also got the giant articulated claw with these 2 like little kind of sub-cutting or / claw things that come out of the side of it for breaking up ships. So that is a fairly large and complicated model, and that's something that they're going to have to work out for 3.2. So I kind of want to think, even though I have to admit that I'm probably a little biased because I do own one, I kind of feel like the Reclaimer could possibly be one of those 2 ships. Just because, you know, we already know that the Banu Merchantman is 3.3. Of course, we saw some fresh interiors of it, or one fresh interior of it, but once again, that's still concept work. But they said they were actually working on these 2 ships, and they didn't want to talk about it after they had already mentioned the Banu Merchantman. So it tells me it's something else. They said 2 large ships. So it is entirely possible that it could be the Reclaimer, though once again, I am speculating heavily and possibly a little bit biased on this one. So feel free to throw your 2 cents in the comments down below. But I have a feeling that if you want to play it safe, it's probably the Hull C and the Prospector are in, I guess they're working on them right now in the UK. And a possible alternate would be the Reclaimer. But once again, you know, personal bias. Anyways, that was just about all that we got for ship updates this week. More than last week and the week before, but still, hopefully we'll be getting more information soon, and hopefully we'll be getting some details on the Hurricane soon. Anyways, that's the show for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.
Quantum travel initiated.